Good evening. Welcome to the Ghosts R N.E.A.R show, where we explore and discuss various aspects of paranormal phenomena. I am your host, Keith Johnson. I'd like to wish everyone a very blessed and happy new year of 2023. And of course, we have a couple of friends who are on our prayer list that seem to be going through a lot of hip replacements lately. Our friend Cody Ray, as well as my friend Dennis Pryor. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. They're recovering very nicely, at least Cody is, as far as I know. So we have a very, very special guest with us tonight, a return guest, Father Ed Brodrick, Deliverance Minister, which is what we're going to be discussing tonight. How are you, Ed?
Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's good to have you here again. And it seemed that last time we just got started, there's so much to cover in this wonderful, amazing topic.
Yes, so much to talk about in so little time.
Right, exactly. Now, some people may find this topic a little disturbing, but you know, we'll try not to be too disturbing about it. But
absolutely,
it is a reality that we do deal with in the deliverance ministry.
Absolutely.
So, you've certainly had a lot of adventures lately.
Yes, absolutely. In fact,
it never stops, does it?
Oh, no, it doesn't. Somehow I kind of accidentally fall into it.
Yes.
So, you know, just as I go, and then either somebody says, oh, yeah, I've had this problem. And then the next thing you know, it develops into a case.
Right. Yeah. So, just recently, I understand you've had an experience.
Yes. Actually, I was doing some work with your CBD store, which is in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and that's been kind of like a headquarters for me because the owner of that store is also does healing and spiritual healing, so it's just kind of a nice little connection. And so she had asked me to be a special guest in her store to provide spiritual counsel and blessing for the day. It was a good day thing.
Yes.
And so I had a client, and that turned out to be wonderful. There was a lot of spiritual and emotional healing, and even a physical healing. Her legs were uneven, and we had prayed for her. And she was sitting there, and literally you could see the legs, one of the legs just grow.
Wow.
The hip, there was a crunch, and next thing you know, her legs were even. It was amazing.
Wow.
But what was interesting was after I was done with the client, I went off to a room to pray. The owner of the store, she had also had a tarot card reader. Now, I have nothing against tarot card readers, mind you, but there as well. And she had a client, and it was in a locked room. And I was way on the other side of the building, and so I was like blessing this. I blessed the store, I was blessing everybody praying. And so I thought, well, I will bless the tarot card reader. Just to do say a general blessing for the tarot card reader that no evil or any kind of demonic interception would happen.
Right.
And then after that, I was done, and I had a phone call, which was one of those coincidences because it was a woman that was having a demonic issue. And so here I am, I'm handling that case. I'm in the car. Well, this tarot card reader comes tearing out of her office and complains. She said that somehow she felt like I had, in some way, psychically or spiritually gone into the room and spied on and interrupted, to interrupt or sabotage her reading. And I was like...
It's called spectral evidence.
Spectral evidence, yeah. Wasn't that an issue with the witch trials?
The Salem witch trials.
Exactly. Well, apparently, guilty as charged. So that was very odd. But she was like, I felt his presence. I felt like something shift, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and I can't do this. I'm out. And she left.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but which actually kind of demonstrated a few things for me, something that I've always believed but never realized the evidence, but there it is. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. I remember a story. It happened quite some decades ago, and I read about this quite some years ago too, but this happened decades ago, that there was a psychic medium channeler. She was a channeler, and she was channeling, and there happened to be a Christian minister in the room at the time among the viewers, and she was very peacefully telling, she had a spirit guide had come into her, very peacefully telling everybody you know, what they wanted to hear and what they had asked, the information they had asked, and she went into a little bit of theology, I guess. And so the Christian minister asked, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And the woman hesitated, and the Spirit speaking through her hesitated and said, Jesus is the King of the world. And he said, agreed. And do you also agree that Jesus shed his blood for the forgiveness of mankind's sin? He had hardly got the words out, and all of a sudden she let out this tremendous roar and jumped on the table, glorying at him. And they like took 2 or 3 people to pull her off, you know, from this nice passive voice, sing-songy voice, to all of a sudden this growling, you know, guttural, deep bass voice, you know, and that's an extreme example. It doesn't often happen, but
the interesting thing between the 2 of them, anger was the result of that. With the tarot card reader, now I'm not saying all tarot card readers are under the influence of evil, but in this case, I believe there was a demonic spirit that was operating through this tarot card reader, just like there was a demonic spirit operating out of that woman. Because now here you're present. Who cares? I mean, if you're operating from the same source, it would have enhanced it in some way, instead of all of a sudden now the spirit's being provoked. And anger is always, anger and fear is always the response when the presence of Christ and a demonic entity is going face to face. There's a sense of spiritual violence that's going on.
Right. And I think quite often it's somebody's self-conscious. Their self-conscious is actually, you know, speaking through them, giving the answers and everything, because, you know, your subconscious is going on.
Absolutely.
But there are those times when it is an actual entity.
Agreed. Agreed, yeah.
I'm glad it was successful recently, your recent experience.
Oh, it was very successful. It was very good. And also very educational. I believe that because this woman's reading was disrupted, she's going to be thinking about what was it that this man did that would interrupt my flow. And I believe it's the kindness and the loving kindness of God, you know, to grab her attention and say, you can rise higher. Right. You can have something better.
And that brings up another interesting point, that sometimes physical malady does seem to have a spiritual essence or a spiritual cause.
Yes.
You know, and it's sometimes it's a fine line. When is it, like, obviously there's a lot of illnesses. I would say most illnesses are totally, you know, physical. They have a natural reason that they're there, but there are some times when the illness does seem to have a spiritual side too.
Yeah, a lot of times, I would say a lot of cases where doctors don't have an answer for whatever malady these people have. Right. It's a spiritual, there's a spiritual root. There is a spiritual root to every sickness and disease. Because of the fact that if you're disconnected from the source of life, then it's death. But you and I both know that what is in the spirit always manifests in the natural. So if you're disconnected in any way, and even part of your life is disconnected from revelation or understanding of how the Spirit of God works, well, then it's going to be a form of death. Right. So sickness and disease is the natural manifestation of that. But there are times when demonic entities will take that and disguise themselves as a form of sickness and disease. And I've ran into a few of those as well.
Yes. Sometimes it's not easy when you don't want to use the D word. You know,
right, exactly.
You come into a case and you really don't want to, you know, start out by talking about that. And unless somebody, you know, is very, very interested in knowing and honest and open. But, you know, sometimes it's, people say you blame everything on demons, you blame everything, you know, demons, and which, you know, try not to. We try, obviously, we look for the physical causes, we look for extraneous reasons why a phenomena is happening, and often there is. Yes. Oftentimes there is. You know, there's a creak in the floor can sound like a whine, and I've seen people attribute that to evil spirits. And
a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Joe Nickel, if you know Joe Nickel, Skeptical and 40 magazine and everything. He was called into a case once, and they hear this piano music going off in the middle of the night, all hours of the night. So he went around the neighborhood, and certain enough, there's a neighbor that plays the piano in the middle of the night. That was an easy fix, but it's not always that easy, though.
Well, there was there was a case that I had. It was an actual legit case, but they tried to attribute that. It seems like right around 3 o'clock, their cats, and I know animals are very sensitive.
Yes, yes, yes.
Their cats would catch the attention of a spirit, and the spirit would always go into another room. And as we were talking, it happened to be right around 3 o'clock, sure enough, the cats are like following it. Now, at that point,
was this 3 a.m. or 3 p.m.?
3 a.m. Sorry, 3 p.m. I'm sorry, 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay.
And I have cats, or
yes.
I had cats, 3 of them. So I understand cats. I am not a cat person. I am a dog person, just letting everybody know, but it's okay. Yeah. But at that point, that was my cat phase.
Right.
But so I was down. I decided to get down on the floor and look up, and sure enough, there was like this dust bunny. And every time around 3 o'clock, the heater would come on, and this dust bunny would come around and just follow the circuit of the stream into, the room.
Yeah.
And so, I snatched it, and sure enough, they were looking at that. So again, all kinds of things can be attributed to demons, and that's what they want.
Right.
They want to stir up any form of fear that they can.
Yes.
So
yes, true.
they'll use the dust bunny to build up the fear, because really fear is faith in reverse. It's an expectation of something bad.
Yes.
And I believe that human beings possess great potential, and sometimes we manifest our own demons.
Yeah, that is true. Very true. Good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk a little bit about the origin, or the beliefs of the origins in demons. Like
Get into some demonology. Excellent.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Get into some angelology and demonology, because they do go hand in hand quite often.
Yes.
Some of the opinions of where demons come from. Of course, there's quite a few opinions, and there's several main opinions, but the most popular three, one, they come from a pre-Adamic race.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there was a race before Adam and Eve, and before the Genesis story, somewhere between the creation of the earth and the void and everything.
Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, the way it's phrased in the Hebrew, it tends to lean that there might have been, there was chaos on the face of the earth. Well,
right.
Okay then, well, if there was chaos on the face of the earth, there must have been an earth. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's just, there's not a lot of evidence of that, scripturally. There's not a lot of evidence about that. I mean, could be, I wasn't there. So, I mean, but there's also the most popular belief is in fallen angels.
Right.
Which of course I do believe in fallen angels. There was an outbreak, a war in heaven, a rebellion led by Satan, and spirits were cast out of heaven. There was a great war led by the Archangel Michael fighting on the side of Christ, of course, and God, and the pre-incarnate Christ. But there's another belief too, and that's that these fallen angels, well, they were watchers, 200 watchers.
Right.
Were assigned to watch.
And that's from the Book of Enoch.
Right, the Book of Enoch. And of course, the Book of Enoch is considered pseudepigrapha.
There's a couple of them too, so you got to watch out which Book of Enoch we're talking about.
Yes, right. Exactly. And it's, I don't believe it's actually written by Enoch. It's, well, for the example, Gore Vidal wrote the novel Burr.
Right.
In the 1970s, about Aaron Burr. Now that's it's historical fiction, but it has a lot of true history in it. Right. So I think the Book of Enoch is interesting, where I wouldn't follow every single detail in it.
Eat the chicken, spit out the bones, kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but it is an interesting work, and there does seem to be some truth to that.
Yes.
In Genesis 6, of course, we were just discussing. The sons of God saw that the women of earth were fair, and they took wives of them, anyone they chose, and they bore sons, and they became the mighty men of old, the heroes.
Right.
It was translated of the Hebrew to heroes.
The Nephilim.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Nephilim, the fallen ones.
And so to continue on with that, when the flood came, then they died, and the spirits of those, is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
then
exactly.
became what we would be known as demons today, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Now that was the basic held belief early on, and for many, thousands of years in the
Especially during the Renaissance period.
Yes, in the Renaissance period, yes.
Medieval time.
And there was in very, very early medieval time, well, actually, it was the 4th century. There was a theologian, Sextus Julianus Africanus.
Yes.
And he just could not wrap his head around angels coming down and mating with earth women, human women.
Right.
This is too preposterous. And so he wrote an alternative explanation for that the sons of God is actually referring to the sons of Seth, Adam and Eve's son, after Abel was murdered. And they married into the sons of Cain, the evil generation, against God's will. And that's his theory. That was his theory, and that actually was accepted pretty much, and it's very well held today in Catholicism and Calvinism, and a lot of people do seem to believe that it was the sons of Cain, the sons of Seth, and that theory too.
And I understand that Africanus's work was well grounded.
Yes.
He actually brought out understanding from the original languages, but the problem is when it made references to the Bain Elohim, it was referring to supernatural beings. It was in a spiritual context. Now, of course, Jesus said that you'll be like the angels, neither male nor female.
Right.
So you won't be married or given in marriage because there's no procreation. So then how would these fallen angels be able to mingle with the daughters of men? So there's another one where they possessed men.
Right, that's another theory, yes.
Right, and as a result of that, there was a interfering with the genetic code of humanity.
Yes.
I believe, having studied it through, the prophecy had been given that there would be a human male that would be born, that would be the God-man, both divine and human at the same time, and that he would have the power to totally destroy and undo the work of the devil.
Yes.
So this was before the fall. I personally believe that, and I think it's pretty clearly written, that the fallen angels were assigned to pollute the bloodline so that the Messiah would not be born, and therefore recreate mankind in Lucifer's image, in Satan's image, instead of God's image.
I tend to agree with that. That's what I tend to agree with too.
Yeah. And since when do two human beings, right, and since when do two human beings come together and then produce giants? There's news articles that have been publicized and then mysteriously disappeared about skeletons that they found that were like 9, 10, 12 feet tall.
Not just the news articles, the skeletons themselves, the evidence.
Right.
The Smithsonian's famous for that.
Exactly. So now there it is. I mean, but I know that a lot of evidence, biblical, that would line up with the scriptures have been suppressed.
Yes.
Because then that would bring about like a sense of judgment.
Yes.
Okay, this stuff is real,
And I read an article about, because, it's difficult to prove these things, but I did read an article once that there were these anthropologists, and they were over in some, I don't know if it was the African continent or what, some, far removed from us, but they found giant footprints. A woman seemed to belong to a woman, but giant footprints. And one of the anthropologists, the guy turned his back, all of a sudden he is hammering. The other one's smashing it. You've heard about smashing the footprints. What are you doing? What are you doing? He doesn't. People are going to believe the Bible if we
exactly, yeah.
It's get one extreme to another.
They do, but this is all documented, proof
Yes.
that these the truth has been suppressed. But then again, how do you explain then these demonic cases that happen?
Right, right. And if you could speak to people that lived in the time of Jesus, up in the time of Jesus and afterwards till about the 4th century, the Hebrew word for an evil spirit, or demon as we call them today, word for an evil spirit was tamu nafal, dead Nephilim, dead fallen ones.
Interesting.
I always found that very interesting.
Yeah.
And Jesus, of course, in Scripture doesn't really he doesn't elaborate on the origin of demons, but he explains a lot about their nature and their character.
Absolutely.
Like in Matthew 12:43, when an evil spirit goes out of a man, wanders through dry places seeking rest and finding none, goes back to the house from where it came and finds it neat, well swept, cleaned out. Nothing is changed, and there's nothing. The Holy Spirit is not residing there.
Exactly.
And I will return with several more wicked than myself.
I've actually turned down people who desperately sought help from me, but they had no interest in changing.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And
yes.
If I were to bless them and release them by the authority of Christ, release them from that spirit, but they have no interest in changing.
Yes. I've had people tell me, I'll think about it later. I'll think about it later. You take care of the spirit and I'll consider it.
Right. Well, yeah, I always do whenever I have a case, or like even if it's like a case of a house that's haunted or whatever, a paranormal case, I always go back 2 weeks later. For some reason, the 2-week span seems to be the thing. And I always check up on them, see how they're doing, because it's not, and I see this happen all the time, deliverance ministers or even priests, exorcists will come in and they'll bless the place and then they'll leave and then there's no follow-up. Yeah. There's no follow-up, or there's no instruction on how to stay free.
Yes, right.
Because
exactly.
It's not just me coming in, blessing the place, and removing the negative energy. Sometimes I call it negative energy for, because I don't want to terrify people that, you have an ancient being that, that's fallen from heaven residing on the inside of you. They want you dead. Yeah, they don't really like that.
Right,
so, negative energy or whatever. And I'll just say, when I walk through the house, I bless the house, but I also take them with me and show them how I bless the house.
Yes.
Because it all goes back to your relationship. Do you have a relationship with God or don't you? If you have light on the inside of you, then you're going to be okay. And the spiritual law, the greater always suppresses or rules over the lesser.
Yes, yes.
And that's how magic works, and that's how the occult works, because the spirits that are with one person may be greater than the spirit that's in another person, so they can, in some ways, do exorcisms and such, but the greatest spirit to have in you is Christ.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So I know you were at Maplecroft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Great case.
Friends of ours, and you were
lovely place.
Yes, they had you bless that house. And
yes.
Of course, a private family is living there now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I would think probably they're unmolested by evil spirits because of the blessing you did, and the peace you brought into that house.
Thank you for sharing that. That really blesses me. Thank you.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I don't get a lot of
feedback.
You know, but oh wow, well, that's so good.
The fact that we haven't heard anything, that they haven't rushed out of the house.
I haven't gotten any phone calls.
Very effective. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That was a very unique case too, because that house actually called me out. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I know the owners of the house called you. That's right. That's right. They did. I did know that. Yeah.
What happened? Yeah, they were getting these EVPs, electronic voice phenomena.
Right.
And it was saying help. And then it said, how do you want us to help you? And it said, call the priest or call Father Ed.
Oh, really?
Right there said Father, and then it just one voice said Ed. I heard that bone chilling.
Wow.
I was skeptical at first, but I actually know the people who were doing the EVP, so I know they weren't.
Right.
But when you have a house that's haunted and it's literally calling out your name.
Yeah.
I was like, Lord, you sure you want me to do this one? And I didn't want to come out possessed myself, but yeah.
Yeah, good friends of ours. Actually, you know, we did discuss that case. I had Deb and Sue on as guests, and we did discuss that intervention that you did.
Yeah, wonderful people.
Yeah, they are very
Loved
nice.
working with them.
Nice people. Nice people. So we're almost running out of time.
Already. We have so much fun.
I know, but please share another story with us, please.
Oh, absolutely. One of the, talking about Deb, I had an invitation, Deb, and was with your brother, down to Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And it was a case where there was poltergeist activity. Yeah. Things were moving around. People were getting scratched, and their friends would come over, and then they would end up getting scratched. So they wanted, it actually is on YouTube. I think it's called Demon House, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so interesting case, but there was voices, not even EVP voices, but whispered voices saying things. And so they had asked for help, and one of them was very sick. And so I administered to them. And the way I do is, if I keep giving them bad news, then they're all going to believe in bad news. But if I give them some hope, a lot of times evil spirits will attach to you through guilt, through shame, whatever. So if I just tell them that God has already forgiven them and cleansed them, then they can adhere to that and believe in it, and that empowers them. The whole family got delivered, and as a result, that woman that was sick was instantly healed.
Oh, wow.
Because that was a demonic rooted disease.
Wow.
Yeah, and after that, now I actually do more cases with the shaman that brought the whole thing up in the first place. She has a little shop and everything down there in Connecticut, and she's seen the change in that family, and it's actually brought light to her as well. Yeah. And so that, you know, amazing, amazing. And of course, you and I have had many cases. Yes,
yes, we have, and I believe we'll have more.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, what is the best way to do that?
The best way to contact me would be at my email is cryout, CRYOUT 333 @gmail.com, Edward Brodrick. You can also find me on YouTube, Ed Brodrick, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I do a little teaching, spiritual teaching in these matters, and you can always reach out.
Okay. Quick bit of advice for people. Somebody's in a house or in a situation where they feel that they're hearing voices, they're very scared, they're hearing voices at night, in the daytime, things moving around, they suspect it might be something more than just a natural cause. Sure. They're debating whether they should call in for help, but what should their first move be? Their first move should be do not respond at all. Do not speak to them. Do not say, Grandma, is that you? Do not speak to them at all. And pray. Yep. God help me. And then seek a pastor or a priest that you trust that can help you. Very good, very good. And if you don't have that, you can reach out to this guy right here or myself. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Again, it's been great. We'll have to have you on again. Continue. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. It will be. It will be. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and God bless.